All right, ladies, let's hop on in. First of all, happy Friday. I hope all of you had an amazing week. But I want to continue with the theme that I've been talking about this a lot this week, which has actually been healing the father wounds, daddy issues, whatever you want to call it. And today in this message, in this training video, should I say, I want to focus specifically on how father wounds can actually affect dating. I can say that I myself, once upon a time, back when I was, still out there dating and everything, wasn't even that my standards were high, but I realized that I had a lot of different expectations when it came to the men that I was dating and, encountering that I would even consider giving a chance to. And while at the moment I thought it actually was tied to my standards, I didn't realize how much it was actually tied to the issues from my father, a lot of the pain and the wounds from my father that I was not even aware of that they even existed. So a lot of the standards and expectations were, truth be told, they were nothing but fear-based at the end of the day. Let me just go ahead and say I want to make it known that this message is not about blaming our fathers at all. I don't know if you caught the podcast that I actually did this week. I would say go and listen to it if you have not already. Talking about how healing the father wounds or how the father wounds actually affects your dating strategy or dating standards. I don't remember what the title of it was. But even in that episode, I was just kind of talking about how a lot of our fathers, how we need to offer them grace, right? Like we don't think about how they were raised and what their, father may have been like and all of those things that ultimately affected them. So it's realizing, as I always say, it's considering the person that raised the person or didn't raise that ended up raising or even neglecting or abandoning us. And sometimes when we really look at the pathology, we can have a little bit of a better understanding. So this message is not about blaming your dad at all, but it is understanding how a lot of those early experiences, how they ultimately shaped your view of love and how healing can absolutely change you, right? Like how it can transform how you show up when it comes to dating and love today. So first of all, or maybe starting off, looking at what father wounds really do, right? Before we can really talk about healed dating, let's talk about what unhealed dating and what unhealed love looks like. Because what ends up happening, unfortunately, with a lot of the father wounds and a lot of that pain that comes from them is that we end up realizing that there's some emotional absence that took place first and foremost. And it doesn't always have to be an emotional absence with our dads. Sometimes it can be mental, sometimes it can be physical. Daddy issues are not only present in those who did not have a father in their life. I actually have several clients that I work with in private coaching where their father was in the house with them when they grew up, right? So it's like a father can be there, but just because he is physically present, maybe there was an emotional component that was missing or a mental component that was missing. Maybe you were not loved or validated by him, right? So the father wounds can be a physical, emotional, and or mental absence. Maybe it was inconsistency. Like maybe you had a father who was not really steady when it came to certain things. Maybe he did not prioritize you. I felt like with my father that a lot of times I was the one who was taking initiative and he was just pretty much responding in many ways. He was not, proactive at all. Maybe it could be one of those things where there was lack of affirmation or even lack of affection. A lot of those things are, tied to father wounds in some way. And it's not just about being fatherless. At the end of the day, it's about what your heart learned to expect from men, all because of your father. Because as women, the opposite sex parent, our fathers, they determine the kind of relationships that we end up being in. And it affects dating in so many different ways. And I just want you to be cognizant of that because it might be you being attracted to emotionally unavailable men. I know we talk about that a lot, or men who are unavailable in any aspect. I've spoken before. I know women who it's not just that a man is emotionally unavailable. There are some women who date men who are maybe relationally unavailable. Maybe it's someone who is already in a relationship or even a marriage. That is something that can be, and a lot of times is tied to father wounds. It could be a man who, there are some women who are okay with men who are incarcerated, right? Because it's still trying to protect yourself in some way subconsciously. That's what's always going on at the root. But father wounds affect dating, whether it's, you being drawn to or attracting emotionally unavailable men. Maybe you find yourself confusing attention with affection, thinking just because he calls, just because he tries to see you or tries to spend time with you, you think that that means he actually cares about you or loves you, and that is not always the case. Maybe you're someone who grew up believing that love was something that had to be earned or proven in some way. Maybe you're someone who has strived to receive love. Maybe you have struggled with feeling worthy, and maybe you're struggling when it comes to your self-worth. There are so many things that can be present in a woman who feels as if she was neglected or rejected and or abandoned by her biological father. But I love how Psalm 68:5 says that he is a father to the fatherless. Like, even when our biological dads drop the ball, we have a God who has already adopted us. We have a God who cares about us. We have a God who steps in even when our earthly examples fall short. But the thing is, we have to allow him to. I love when Revelations talks, when Jesus is saying, I stand at the door and knock. He wants to have a relationship with you, right? But so many women, even those who are Christians, they are failing to let God do what it is that he needs to do, right? Like, there are so many people who they think they're living, but they're really just existing, right? Because if you are not healed, if you are not whole, if you are not at the best version of yourself, you're dishonoring God first and foremost, but it also means you're stifling the Holy Spirit and you're stopping him from doing a certain work inside of you. You are not living the abundant life that Christ came for you to have. It means you are simply existing. So you have to allow God to come in. You have to allow God to renew you, to make you whole, and to eradicate you of all the residue that was left from whoever it is that actually hurt you. Until you actually face the pain, until you actually acknowledge and address the root, you are going to keep dating men who feel familiar instead of the men who are actually fit for your future. The men who are actually aligned with your vision and your values and things like that, right? So let's talk psychology for a minute, because spiritual healing and emotional awareness, they go hand in hand. I talk about attachment styles a lot, right? You have to know your attachment style and know the behaviors that are tied to them. And what I do know is that if you had a father who was inconsistent or absent or unavailable for whatever reason, and of course, unfortunately, I know that, it can also be a thing for those who were maybe adopted, or even if you had a father who passed away. There are all of these different things that can cause daddy issues, right? But either way, I do know that it is going to affect your attachment style. And often what I see with women who had a father who was not there and who did not provide for them in the way that they needed, they fall into one or two categories. A large majority fall into the anxious attachment style category. This is where you are preoccupied with your relationships. This is where you might make everything about that man, adjusting your schedule, people pleasing, trying to love him into loving you. It's where you fear abandonment. It's where you overgive, you overtext, you overfunction. If there's anything going on, if that man does not respond soon enough to a text message or call you back quick enough, you'll take that silence as some form of rejection. There are all of these things that are associated with having the anxious attachment style. On the flip side, maybe you're the one who's fearful avoidant. This is where you crave and actually want the closeness of a relationship, but you panic when it shows up. So therefore, you might find yourself pulling away when things get a little too real or a little too serious. Maybe you self-sabotage because that is a way for you to stay in control and try to protect yourself. Self-sabotaging is almost always connected with those who have a fearful avoidant attachment style. Your nervous system, with father wounds, your nervous system learned that love equals uncertainty. So therefore, you are wired to not really trust it, or to trust that it is going to stay, or to trust that you are worthy of it. And it's why your cycles and patterns have been what they are. It's why you have dated the way that you have dated, right? But of course, I'm telling you all this because the goal is for you to understand that when you heal, you are going to date differently at the end of the day. Peace, I always say, peace is always going to feel foreign until you actually let God rewire what safety means. This is why it is so easy to perceive certain men as being, boring or lame, or there's no chemistry, there were no sparks, or oh, I want something different, better, whatever the case might be. It is because you have been wired and conditioned to associate love with being chaotic or uncertain or insecure. When it comes to these things, when it comes to how you date, you want to ensure that you can handle certain things in a mature manner, because otherwise you will continue to sabotage. Dating will not be fruitful and productive otherwise, right? This is why I always say you have to pause before reacting. Before reacting to something that maybe a man said that triggered you, or something he did that triggered you. Pause before responding or reacting to that text message or whatever the case might be. Because you never really know, like sometimes when you take a step back, you can realize, okay, maybe this is a me issue. It's not him at all. I am triggered and I need to find out why. So you pause before reacting, and you want to pray before attaching. Anytime there are father wounds present, anytime when there's healing that has not taken place, what happens is women tend to form unhealthy attachments. And if you take the time to pray first and be like, okay, God, show me what's really going on here. What is it that I'm really attracted to? Is there an unhealed part of me that I'm unaware of that's actually causing me to want this man? God, is this man even worthy of my time? Why do I think he is? God, reveal myself to me so that I can get clear in this matter, because God doesn't want you being attached to anything. God does want you to have a healthy connection. We are meant to form connections, not attachments. So if you actually learn to pray first, you will actually find yourself in a much better position. And it's just another way for you to date differently and to date strategically. Anytime that you are triggered, that is a time for you to check in with yourself, right? Because a lot of times our triggers, not a lot, all the time, our triggers reveal so much about ourselves. And if we take the time to just figure out, again, what is going on? Why am I feeling this way? Where does this come from? What emotion am I really trying to suppress? What am I not allowing myself to feel? And when you get to that answer, don't judge your triggers, but it's really just tracing them and identifying where it came from, evaluating why it's present to begin with. The turning point is going to be you healing and renewing. Healing and renewal are the best things, the only things that are really going to make sense if you are a woman who can identify that you do have father wounds that are present in your life. But please know, the shift happens once you can identify that the wounds are present, first and foremost. Once you can be honest about what your daddy did or didn't do, what your real feelings are about him, really going deep and acknowledging any hurt, pain, anger, bitterness, resentment, anything that actually might be present. And from there, the healing happens when you invite God to reparent you. When you start to trust God's consistency, when you trust his love for you, when you can really start seeing yourself through his lens, when you actually believe the things that he says about you, when you believe that he wants better for you, when you believe that he should not at all be associated with your biological father. You have to allow God to really step in and reparent you and fill whatever void, to meet whatever need that is present in your life, so that you can start doing things differently. Healthy dating is only going to start when you have a healed identity. when you are realizing who you are, whose you are, who you were created to be, when you realize all the wonderful things about you, when you realize that you are not defined by whatever happened to you, you are not defined by who neglected you, you are not defined by who abandoned you, you are not defined by whoever was not present in your life. Don't let any of those things make you view yourself a certain way or make you feel like you are less worthy because of what your father did. At the end of the day, we know that Romans 12:2 says what? To be transformed by the renewing of your mind. All the thoughts that you have about yourself, anything that you feel about dating today, men today, what you feel as if you are deserving of or worthy of, it is all tied to your mindset. So you have to be transformed by the renewing of your mind and understanding that transformation, it is mental and spiritual before it even gets to being relational. When you decide that you are going to focus on renewing your identity, healing your identity, letting God renew you, letting God reparent you, that is when you are going to be on the track to being a healed woman. And let me tell you, healed women date differently. Healed women communicate differently. Only a healed woman is able to say, hey, no, I'm not cool with that. Nope, that's going too far. Nope, you are not what I'm looking for. Yes, you are a man that I can see myself with. Yes, this is something I prefer. No, that is something I dislike. Hey, it bothered me when you said this. I felt a certain way that you didn't do this. Like, healed women know how to communicate. Healed women know how to set boundaries without fear of being rejected, fear of being criticized, fear of being abandoned. Healed women, they choose peace instead of potential. A healed woman is one who says, I will be at peace with myself and by myself before I ever settle for a piece of a man, before I ever settle just to not be single, before I ever settle just to say I have somebody. So I would challenge you to ask God to show you the unhealed daughter that is still leading your dating life, and start letting the woman inside of you take the wheel so that you can do things differently. I want you to be positioned for a happy, healthy, holy relationship. I want you to be positioned for kingdom love, even after your father has hurt you, abandoned you, rejected, or neglected you. But you got to understand, being positioned, being positively positioned, like I talk about in New Heart Academy, that is something that is mindset, it's positivity, and it's physical placement, right? But the positive part, the mindset part, it's realizing that kingdom love requires three things. It requires maturity, it requires self-awareness, and it requires wholeness. Kingdom love cannot exist without those three things. And the positively part, the mindset part, is also you knowing you attract whatever it is that you believe you deserve. Check your thoughts and check your words in this season. What are you saying about yourself? What are you saying about your singleness? What are you saying about dating and men today? Because you shouldn't be positioned at all if you're not even positive, right? Like, you want to make sure that you truly are renewed so that you can have a good experience. Because position isn't about chasing, it's not about proving, it is about preparing. It is about preparing yourself for something that is healthy and something that you actually deserve at the end of the day. I want you to guard your heart at all costs, but realize that guarding your heart means protecting what you've actually taken the time to heal. When you know who you are, you stop auditioning for love, and it's when you start attracting alignment. It's when you actually become aligned with what it is you deserve. You become aligned with something that God wants you to have. So let me leave you with this. First and foremost, you cannot heal what you don't face. If you are going on and acting like you are not affected, or maybe you're not even realizing you're affected, then you can't heal it. And until you're healed, you're going to keep dating the way that you've been dating. You're going to keep encountering the same kind of men. You're going to keep finding yourself in the same relationships. You're going to keep restarting your abstinence journey over and over and over again. Or until you heal, you're going to find yourself sitting on the sidelines and not even being approached or not even getting past the DM conversations if you don't actually heal. You can't receive healthy love while entertaining unhealthy attention. Some of the screenshots and the messages that I get in my DMs from women sometimes wanting me to give my thoughts on, a conversation they're having with a man. And once I really start asking questions, it's kind of like, why are you entertaining this? This is attention, but it's not healthy attention. You cannot receive healthy love, and a lot of women don't even realize, they can't even recognize when something is so far from being healthy, but it's because their heart has not been renewed. It's when they're still broken and they still have some pain and some residue that is present because they have not yet faced it. I know it can be annoying being a little bit single, right? The holidays are coming up. I get it. God is not punishing you when it comes to your singleness. He's preparing you through healing, or at least he's trying to, but you've got to allow him to come in and do what it is that only he can do. Your healing process is going to jumpstart everything. Your healing is the setup for your kingdom partnership. So let God finish what he started in your heart, so that way when love shows up, when that good man shows up, that man that smells amazing, who looks good, he's fine, his beard connects, he got the swag and everything else, so that way when that man shows up, you'll be ready to steward it and not sabotage it. Healed women date differently. It's time for you to start your process so that you can position yourself for kingdom love, even though your dad dropped the ball or was not there for you in some way. If you're ready to go deeper into this, you already know I'm here for you. This is what I do, of course, in New Heart Academy. We can do the renewing, the alignment, the emotional reset. You need to be inside there if you're saying, I'm ready to do something different. You can be in a completely different place a year from now. But that is all going to be up to you. New Heart Academy, it is where healed women learn to date differently. And it's time for you to start doing that. One step at a time. I've got your back. You already know it. All right? But I'm out. That's all I have to say. I want you to enjoy the rest of your evening. I want you to reflect on this. I want you to start journaling a little bit. Maybe start thinking about the relationship that you did or did not have with your father. Maybe think about, okay, if I could speak to him, or this is what the little girl wanted to say, or if I had a chance, this is what I would say to him. Get honest about the emotions that you are feeling because of the kind of relationship that you and him did not have. When you can start by getting honest, raw, open, vulnerable about your feelings, you'll be surprised at how even that first step alone is going to change so much for you going forward. That is literally the first step. When you can actually evaluate, when you can identify, first of all, when you can identify the truth, you are on the best possible path.